Clemson's ceiling for 2024 rises and lowers on the shoulders of Cade Klubnik.
You are Locked On Clemson, your daily podcast on the Clemson Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Clemson podcast. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm your host, John Bivens. You can find us over on X at I am John Bivens. We are a credentialed media member for Clemson University, where we are covering Clemson football, baseball, and basketball. Thanks for making Locked On Clemson your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast at and over on YouTube. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. After you listen to this podcast, make sure to check out one of the other 200 plus shows a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Here on Locked On Clemson, though, we're bringing you all sports, all passion, all of the time, where we're bringing you everything you need to know regarding Clemson sports. Today is Tuesday, August 13th. Sorry for the later episode, but we're going to be bringing you a good one, talking about the ceiling of Clemson's team this year, the floor of Clemson's team, and the rankings. What are the rankings saying about this team? It's going to be great. We are grateful for all of our sponsors that make this show possible. For a full list of those, check out the episode notes below. The ceiling for Clemson's football team this year rides on the shoulders of Cade Klubnik. That's plain as day. If you don't agree with me, I want to hear your argument. But I think in order for Clemson, if you don't know, a ceiling is the best of the best that Clemson can do. Dream situation, realistically, what can Clemson do this year? It rides on Cade Klubnik. We'll talk about that more. But we also later on are going to talk about the floor. Where does the floor sit? But the ceiling, it rides on Cade Klubnik. Let's think about this, though. Let's think about Clemson and who they are. When you're thinking about Clemson from this year, there's a lot of doubt. There's a lot of people wondering what's going to happen. What's it going to look like? How can Cade play better? How are they going to bounce back from a disappointing last year with their results from last year? What's going to happen with all that? There's a lot of downplaying Clemson's ability. There's a lot of this looking down on Clemson this year. And I want you to remember something. I want you to remember Dabo Sweeney. This Dabo Sweeney is the one that coined the term little old Clemson, right? Or little old Tigers, right? That down here in little old Clemson, we're just playing football, right? You know the coin I'm talking about. You know the terms that he says. That's what he does. This same Dabo that went on fire on a 5-game win streak and some pretty big upsets when Tyler from Spartanburg called in and got onto him. This is the guy that underestimating him fires him up. He's almost like the Eagles. I'm a big Birds fan. Fly, Eagles, fly. Remember when they made that one run and Jason Kelsey and Lane Johnson broke out the dog hats because they were the underdogs and all their matchups ended up winning it going on a really successful season. That's Dabo Sweeney. He's someone that the underdog mentality, the underplaying them, fires him up and helps him motivate his players more than anything. So don't underestimate this team. But the reason I say that the ceiling is on Cade Klubnik's shoulders is because how his performance will go will impact everywhere else. If Cade comes out and he's playing hero ball, he's making the mistakes, he's throwing it all over the place, he's throwing interceptions, he's fumbling the ball, he's not making the right reads, he's not calling out the right things. If that's the case, if he comes out and plays bad, it doesn't matter the rest of the team, right? I mean, it doesn't matter what can happen. Cade has to play really well for the ceiling to be high. And do I think Cade has to be Heisman runner, has to be Trevor Lawrence, Deshaun Watson level for Clemson's ceiling to truly hit where it is? No. I think he's just got to be better. I think he's got to see some improvements from last year. And so when we're talking about the ceiling of Clemson, we've got to talk realistically where Cade Klubnik can be at. And Cade Klubnik can be a good quarterback. This is the high-level prospect that came in, that 5-star recruit. That's this same player. Yes, he had a little bit of a weird year last year with some dumb mistakes, but don't forget, we're 5 plays away last year from instead of finishing with 3 losses, finishing with 1. 5 plays, that's it. You got the FSU game where we had the couple dumb plays in overtime and before overtime started, right? And then you also have the Duke game where those 2 fumbles in the red zone killed it. If those 5 plays don't happen, we're sitting with 1 loss right now. I mean, that's the reality of this situation. And so with all that being said, Cade Klubnik, I think he can play better. He can remove some of those dumb mistakes that he made last year and start playing at a more consistent level, start playing at a more level that allows him to truly shine with what he is. And so Clemson's season this year their ceiling is very, very high. Let's quickly go through the schedule. So we open up week 1 against Georgia, and I know 95% of the country is marking this off as an L for Clemson already. Don't downplay Dabo. Don't give him the underdog advantage because he'll thrive on it. I think this game is up in the air. I think there's a good chance we win this. So you can go back a couple episodes ago as we talked about the keys to this upset. There's a real potential Clemson wins this game. So don't mark it down as a loss. But let's ceiling, right, realistically as high as it can go, they can definitely win this game. Look back a couple years ago where we didn't allow an offensive touchdown. We only allowed one offensive score with 3 points and then gave up a pick six, lost 10-3. That was in 2021. That wasn't ancient history. That's real. There's players on both teams that are still playing there that watch that happen on the sidelines. This is a team that can beat this Georgia team. This is a team that can upset this Georgia team. It's there. Now, am I saying we're favored? No. Am I saying it's more likely that Clemson wins? No. But our ceiling, we win this game. Move on to week 2, App State. Could be a trap game. I think we win that game. Ceiling, we play really well. We win that game. Move on to NC State, week 3 at Clemson. That's a winnable game. Yes, NC State's playing great. This year's team is probably going to be one of the best teams they've had. But we could beat that team. Our defense is strong. If Cade Klubnik plays how he can, Phil Maffa will run all over them. They don't have the best rush defense, and our defense will hold their own. Play against Stanford. That's a winnable game easily. Second biggest challenge on the schedule is on October 5th at Florida State. That's a tough one. That is a tough matchup. But here's what I think people are not talking about enough. DJU, no one knows him better than Dabo Sweeney, than the guy that recruited him, the guy that got him to Clemson, the guy that trained him and helped coach him when he was backing up Trevor Lawrence, started when Trevor Lawrence got hurt and then started for almost a full season the next year. This guy is someone that Dabo knows. And so with Dabo knowing all that Florida State is, and then you look at last year with a arguably better team last year than they have this year, and we should have won that game when Florida State came to Clemson. We easily should have won that. We were a missed field goal away from winning, right? We were a dumb overtime read by Cade Klubnik that kept us from winning that game. We were an injury with Nate Wiggins that gave up a touchdown. We were close to winning that game. We should have won that game. And now, with a better defense this year, or possibly for Clemson, Cade Klubnik with a full year under his belt since then, and Florida State a less talented offense, and their quarterback is someone that Dabo knows the ins and outs of all of his game, winnable game. Ceiling, you win that game. Next, you got at Wake Forest. That'd be a tough matchup after that Florida State one. We win that. Then we are home against Virginia, win that game against Tony Elliott. At home against Louisville, I think that's a trap game. I think if I'm going to rank our games that we could lose, and I will later on in another part of the show, Louisville is a game that we could lose. We're at home, yes, but Louisville's got a good squad. You're 2 weeks outside, or you're 3 weeks away from Florida State. You're kind of in the lull of the season. You got 4 weeks until South Carolina. That's a game that could be good, but ceiling, we win that game. Virginia Tech at Virginia Tech. If it was at home, wouldn't even be a question. The fact that it's at Virginia Tech in that environment, going to be a good game, going to be a tough game, going to be a close game. Ceiling, Clemson wins that. Then we got against Pittsburgh. Clemson wins that. Home against the Citadel. If we lose that, I will shave my eyebrows. Mark it down. That we win that game. And then last game of the season is at home against South Carolina. We've bounced win loss with them past couple of years. But ceiling, we win that game. They don't have a great quarterback anymore. They're just, you never know what they're going to be. We win that game. Mark it up. Ceiling for this team is 12-0, but it rides on the shoulders of Cade Klubnik. If he can come out and be who he's supposed to be, not be the hero, not be the Heisman, not be the best quarterback in the nation, or even the best quarterback in the ACC, if he can come out and play smart ball, Dabo Sweeney can get this team to where our ceiling is truly a 12-0 season, ACC champions, and making a deep run in the playoffs. Our ceiling rides on Cade Klubnik, but our ceiling is 12-0 this year. And you can't talk about the ceiling without talking about the floor. Prepare to be disappointed.
This episode of Locked On Clemson is brought to you by FanDuel. Guess what, guys? I love sports. I love them so much. I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games, and the sports aren't sportsing like I want them to. Whew, man, FanDuel has got you covered. FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app, dream up some bets anytime I'm in the mood. I'm telling you guys, it's at your leisure. You can be laying on the couch, twinkling your little toes, and you say, you know what? I want to drop a bet in this bad boy right now. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. Yes, every single day. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel is the official sportsbook betting partner of Major League Baseball.
The floor for Clemson Tigers in 2024, sadly, is 8-4, worse than last year. Thanks so much for making Locked On Clemson your first listen every single day. For your second listen, though, go enjoy the Locked On College Football podcast. Spencer McCaughlin's got a great show where he gets you ready for an exciting season on the gridiron with discussions on the upcoming season and the ever-changing landscape of college athletics, including conference realignment, the transfer portal, NIL, new college football expanded playoffs, and so much more. Locked On College Football is available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. They are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We talked about our ceiling. The ceiling is 12-0. The floor, though, you can't talk about the ceiling without the floor. Ceiling is the best reality, the best realistic that it could be. Floor, the worst realistic that it could be. We're not talking, wheels go off and everybody gets hurt and Clemson forgets how to play. We're not talking that. We're talking the worst it could be realistically, where realistically walk through what's the worst it could be. And so with this being said, I think we have to look back to last year. To find out the floor of this year's team, you got to look at last year. One, we started off at Duke and we lost 7-28. That game was not that ugly. It was a couple turnovers away from being Clemson ball. It was a couple turnovers away, 2 plays away from Clemson winning that game. Lost that. Came out the next week and destroyed Charleston Southern as we should, destroyed Florida Atlantic as we should. Then was the Florida State game where we lost in overtime, a bad play in the end regulation, a missed field goal in regulation, terrible move by Cade in overtime, lost us that game 24-31 in overtime. Then we went to Syracuse, won, Wake Forest won, went to Miami, and we lost, we were home against Wake Forest, but went to Miami and we lost in double overtime 20-28. We shouldn't have lost that game, but we did. That's just what happened. The very next week and 2 hard back-to-back weeks, we traveled from Miami, then traveled to NC State in Raleigh, and we lost that game 17-24. We started off the season 4-4. Then Tyler from Spartanburg called, and it turned into a great ending of the year. One at Notre Dame, 31-23. One against Georgia, or one at home against Notre Dame. One at home against Georgia Tech. One at home against North Carolina. One in Columbia against South Carolina, where honestly that wasn't a great game. We only won 16-7, but we won. And then had the electric win against Kentucky in our bowl game to finish our season with only 4 losses, right? We finished a pretty successful time with 9-4. Let's think about this. Let's think about how 9-4 is disappointing. Let's truly dive that in. This team, we're saying that 9-4, winning a good bowl game and losing 4 losses is the end of the world. One, it's 9-4. That now, should we go 9-4 every year? No, absolutely not. But don't act like this is an unsuccessful year. We still won a major bowl game. We won 1 year with 4 losses. It's not the end of the world. It doesn't mean our program's over. But that's what last year's was. Now looking at this year, what's our floor this year? Unfortunately, I think our floor could be worse. I think our floor could be worse than last year. And I'm going to say 8-4. And the reason I know that record is the exact same as last year, not including the bowl game. I'm not counting the bowl game. I think 8-4 this year hurts worse than last year because when 2 years happen in a row of it, it's a pattern. That's when the doubts can truly rationally be poured in. The floor is low here. There is a very realistic chance that we go into this game this year and we finish 8-4, not counting the bowl game. Look at through the schedule. I'm going to tell you the 4 losses that I think are our biggest chances to lose. Number 1, against Georgia. We're not favored to win that game. the most talented team in the nation, the team that is the only other active coach that other than Mac Brown, than Dabo Sweeney, that has still won a national championship. And he's doing it with the team he played for, or that he's coached for. He's still coaching there. Kirby Smart and Georgia Bulldogs could beat Clemson very well. They're favored in that game for a good reason. Clemson could upset, but a floor, realistically, we could lose that game. So we're 0-1. App State. Guys, I'm going to be real. I'm not marking this as an L. I'm not marking this down as we lose this game, but there's a chance we lose that game. You put all your heart, you put all your attention on the Georgia game. Then week 3, you got a tough matchup against NC State. App State's the giant killers. They're known for some big upsets. They could do it. It wasn't too long ago that they went in so many overtimes with Carolina in a back-to-back shootout, right? This is a team that could do it. We could lose them. I'm going to put it down as a win, but if we lose that, that's a possibility. So 1-1. Next, we got NC State. I'm going to put that as our second loss. This is the floor. I'm not saying I think we lose. Not saying that at all. This is not my predictions. This is the floor. We lose that game. That NC State, it's at Clemson, but NC State's got a great team this year. Grayson McCall from Coastal, the Casey Conception, he's an outstanding wide receiver. Great team right now. If we lose that, I think it'll be an offensive shootout. I don't think their defense is a lot, but I think it'll be one that our defense just allows allows some scores. I don't think offensive shootout. I'm not saying it'll be like 65-59. I'm not saying anything like that, but I think it'll be Clemson can't score a lot, and NC State scores enough to beat them. So I think that'll be the case if we lose that. But so let's put it down 1-2. Then we got Stanford. I'll put that a win. So 2-2. Florida State. That's the third loss. You're going into a very hostile environment, to a rivalry game, to where you're playing DJU, this probably is going to be the game that he's the most motivated for. A team that when he went to as a high prospect that lost faith in him, benched him for a rookie or a freshman quarterback in a bowl game or an AC championship game, and then let him sit in the next game. They lost faith in him, so he transferred. He's going to be playing on all levels. They've got a great coach there. They're pulled in one of the most transfers out of anybody in the nation. Pulled in a lot of transfers that were good players. They've got a really talented team. That's a hostile environment. They're favored to win. They're favored to win the ACC, so that could be a loss. So now we're 1-3. Or we're 2-3. So there's a realistic chance through 5 games we have 3 losses. Then we play Wake Forest. The floor, I think we win that. That's 3-3. Virginia, we win 4-3. Louisville, next game. This is the one of these next 2 weeks I'm going to count as one of our 4th loss. We play at home against Louisville, then we go to Blacksburg against Virginia Tech. One of those games in our floor, when we're playing how we did last year, the worst realistic possibility, one of those games we could lose. Virginia's got the hostile environment. They're not playing too hot, but hostile environment. Louisville's got an up-and-coming team. One of those teams we lose track. We get distracted. We don't stay focused, and we lose one of those. So now sitting after those 2 games, we're 4-4. We beat Pittsburgh 5-4, beat the Citadel 6-4. Then we got South Carolina. 7-4. Then we got South Carolina. I'm saying our floor is 4 losses, but there's a chance we lose South Carolina game. We haven't won 2 in a row in a while. That's just realistically what it's been. It's been back and forth. This team, every time they play, this is the game. Like, I honestly believe that South Carolina would rather lose every game of the season and beat Clemson than win every other game and lose to Clemson. I honestly believe that's how they feel. They're motivated. They're hyped up. It's an aggressive rivalry. That's a tough game. So, honestly, I know I started 8-4. There's a chance we're 7-5. That's our floor. Our floor is 8-4, 7-5. And that's sad. That's depressing. But like we said in the first part, our ceiling rides on the shoulders of Cade Klubnik. Our floor rides on the shoulders of the defense. If the defense can be who they are, we don't have to worry about this. If the defense can be that top 10 defense that they are every single year, they're going to continue growing this team. They're going to be able to carry this team through some of these strap games and allow us to win these. But as we saw last year, a great defense doesn't counteract for a pitiful offense at some points and pitiful turnovers. So our ceiling, 12-0, run at the national championship. Our floor is 8-4, 7-5, no ACC championship, and then playing in a small bowl. That's the realistic opportunities. Ceiling 12-0, the floor, sadly, much worse than that. We've talked about the ceiling. We've talked about the floor. Now, what about the rankings? Where are they ranking us right now? We'll talk about that in a sec. Passion, drive, and patience. That's the formula for winning champions, and it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and so much more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need, the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. I've trusted them in the past, and they've done nothing but the best for me. Go get everything you need for your MVP at ebaymotors.com. We should be very happy with where the rankings have us right now. We should be happy with where the rankings have us. You see, there's a couple different rankings out right now. You've got the AP coaches poll, the AP poll out. You've got the coaches poll out. Fox has put out a poll. PFF has put out a poll. Everywhere you want has put out a poll. And overall, we should be happy with where we're at. And before we dive into where we are exactly, let's think about it. As we talked about earlier, Dabo is not the coach to underestimate. He's not the coach to let him buy into the underdog feel. When you let him be the underdog, he gets his team hyped. I mean, hyped. He that's what he does. He gets his team motivated. He gets them pushing. He gets it on fire. He's great at that. He's also a coach that has a lot of success. He's a coach that knows how to use the rankings as motivation, whether high or whether low or whether unranked. He knows how to use that. So this coach, wherever we're at, Dabo's going to use for the advantage of this team. But where the rankings have us right now, we should be so happy with. And here's why I'm saying that. So the AP poll has us sitting at 14. Well, the AP poll is one that is Associated Press. They've been using that forever. That used to be the standard with the BCS before the playoffs were a thing. The AP poll is the main thing. Then you have the coaches poll, which is from a long list of coaches that all agree to it. They go rank it, and then they put it all together. They also have us at 14. Fox Sports, which of course has some bias to the ACC. I don't care what you say. They have us at 19. And then the PFF, which is a great third-party thing. It's not affiliated with any big networks. The PFF has us at 13, one spot higher. They have it as the highest ranking I've seen from a realistic, valued, resourceful, one that you can trust source. So on average, we're sitting at the mid-teens, 14th spot. That's where we're sitting in these rankings. That is an amazing spot to be in. And here's why. Let's say week one happens and it's terrible. I mean, let's say it goes out. I don't think it will be, but let's say Georgia blows us out. I mean, I'm talking 42-13. Let's just talk it's a blowout. Not going to be that. I'm going to mark it down now. It's not going to, but let's say it is. If that's the case, we're sitting at 14. We're not going to drop out of the rankings from losing to the number one team in opening week. That's not going to happen at 14. So now we're sitting probably 20, low 20s, right? Probably 21, 22 in that ranking. And now it creates this momentum where Dabo's like, all right, guys, we laid an egg week one. Now let's go through it. Now you have a team fighting uphill the rest of the season, knowing they've got to win every single game. ACC starts, you got to win every single game to get back to the ACC championship, to get back to the college football playoffs. Good spot, right? That's a good spot. If you lose, it puts you down. That's a good spot. Let's say you're 14. All right, let's play the opposite way. Let's say we shock or it's a close game. We still lose, but it's a close game. You lose 35-32. You've shown that you can score on one of the best defenses in the nation. You've shown that it doesn't matter the transfer portal. You still can have offensive success. You've shown that Cade Klubnik can still have improvement, but you lose. You're now dropping probably a lot higher teams. You're probably sitting 18, 19, right? At the lowest 20-ish. Still, the same thing goes. Now you're like, hey, we proved it. Yeah, we lose. We didn't complete it how we should have. We still lost. But now let's go out and fix those holes and be better than everybody. You got that momentum going. Now let's say we shock the world. We shock the world and win close game or blowout. Either one, most people are going to be surprised if we win this game. Let's say we win that game. We skyrocket in the rankings. We go from 14 to be the number 1 overall. You're talking a top 10 team, possibly top 7 at that point. That's an outstanding jump. That's an outstanding opportunity for Clemson to truly come out and show. And I think a win here shows a lot. It shows Dabo don't care about the transfer portal, and he can still win without it. It shows Cade Klubnik. If we win that game, Cade's going to have to prove a lot of doubters wrong. So it show benefits there. Everywhere you look with these rankings, it creates this sense where momentum can be built. This loss with Georgia or win with Georgia, either way, can shoot this team in the potential to have a momentum that carries them to the playoffs. If we lose, you get that underdog mentality, but you still are ranked and you don't lose at all. I think if we started out ranked 20th or like even 18th, 19th, and we lost that game, we're now not ranked. And when you go unranked, that's a hard mindset to start off ranked, then to go unranked with one loss. That's a really big mental challenge to fight through. Dabo could do it, but that's a big mental challenge for some players, especially some younger guys, to pull through that. If you have the potential starting at 14th to lose week 1 to the best team in the nation, stay ranked, and then create that momentum, that creates so much value for your team. It creates this opportunity for this team to make giant jumps, to make confidence builders for all of that. It provides this wiggle room that being ranked lower doesn't happen. But it also does this. Let's say the opposite side. Let's say we started off ranked 7th or 8th in the nation. Then we're playing number 1. Then we lose that. To lose 7th or 8th, you have an expectation we're winning this game. Don't matter, we're winning this game. And then you drop all the way down to like the 20th. Massive jump. Hurts your confidence. Be in the middle of the pack right now, I think, is one of the best places to be, because you have wiggle room on both sides that no matter what happens, brings this momentum in and allows the rest of the season to be carried and jump-started by the momentum, win or loss. Right now, the rankings on average have us at 14, and we should be so ecstatic about that spot. Honestly, I couldn't pick a better spot for us to start out right now, because I think it creates so much awesome potential either way what happens. We should be happy with where the rankings have us. And with that being said, that's going to wrap up this edition of the Locked On Clemson podcast. Thanks so much for checking out and letting us be your first listen here today. Now go check out college football or Locked On College Football podcast. Spencer's got some great stuff for you over there. Later on this week, we're going to continue diving into football as we are so close to kickoff. I'm itching for it. It's been amazing. But make sure you stay connected with us. Join our Locked On Insider program for Locked On Clemson by texting Clemson to 864-252-1907. You get 14 days for free to try it out and see the amazing benefits like one-on-one chat, sending in question, mailbag episodes, and so much more. Let us know your top thoughts on today's topic. Shoot us a text through that Locked On Clemson Insider. Reach out to us on Twitter or even drop a comment. We'd love to hear your feedback on what we talked about. If you haven't, make sure to subscribe to this podcast wherever you're podcast at. That way we can be your first listen each and every day. Make sure to go check out one of the many other Locked On podcast networks where it is your team every day. We can't wait to see you on tomorrow's episode. But until then, keep that Tiger pride alive and roaring. And as always, go Tigers.